Hey guys, I'm live. How you guys doing? Um, so this may be a stupid porch rant, but something told me to do it because it's the only way I can be thorough. Because the thought to do it came to me, and if the thought comes and it's there, I'm transparent with you guys, and eventually I need to do the video about it. So let's just do a video on physics. I had something in mind with that. I was watching a Bruce Lee video on YouTube because I'm into martial arts and I like Bruce Lee, and it kept saying that momentum is force. No, momentum is mass times acceleration. It's trying to explain how to hit hard. Momentum is mass times acceleration. So to get momentum, you have to have acceleration. And I thought about it for a quick second and realized they were incorrect with their physics. Something doesn't have to be accelerating to have momentum. LOL. A car can be going at a steady speed, 60 miles an hour, not accelerating, so the acceleration is zero, but the velocity is 60 miles an hour, and the mass of the car times the velocity, that's the momentum. All something needs to have momentum is mass and velocity, because momentum is mass times velocity, not mass times acceleration. My fist can be at steady speed, means acceleration is zero, but the velocity is not zero, and the mass of my fist is not zero, so the mass times the velocity of my hitting is the momentum. Then before I go on about that, I'm explain again what mass times acceleration is. There is a thing called of mass that is mass times acceleration. That only happens when that's only non-zero when something is actually getting faster, and times the mass, and that it turns out is the force. And that is force is mass times acceleration. If you have a car that's idle and you put force on it, the car will speed up from being, if the brake is off, the car will speed up from zero velocity to positive velocity, which means that the car will be accelerating because you're putting force to it. And then the force times the mass of the car, because the higher the mass of the car, the more force it takes to make it accelerate. Therefore, as the mass goes up, force goes up. But the more it accelerates, the more force you're also putting. Another way of saying that is the more force you put, the more acceleration there'll be. So force equals mass times acceleration, and not momentum. Momentum is not force and acceleration. Force is mass times acceleration, not momentum, because momentum is mass times velocity. So just simple physics lesson. It's where we haven't gotten into quantum physics in this lesson yet, but we're about to. But in classical physics, which is pre-relativity and pre quantum mechanics, you just have Newton's laws of motion and Newton's stuff. And if you want to know how something's going to behave, and when you take physics class, you learn this. You draw what's called a free body diagram. You draw the body that's in question. You draw all the forces that are acting upon it. If you have no force, you have no acceleration. If I have a car that's in neutral, that the brake is off or whatever, and it turns out that the car is not accelerating, then I haven't put any force on it. Force causes things to accelerate. If I haven't made the car go faster than it was in the first place, which is faster than zero, I haven't applied any force. So that's equivalent to just standing against the car and not putting any force to it. I'm touching the car, but I'm not pushing it. I'm not putting any force to it. So it's good to get those definitions of momentum and force straight in your head, so you're not fooled the next time someone says that, what they said in that Bruce Lee video. So now let's take a leap to quantum mechanics, which is part of modern physics. There's a thing. Quantum mechanics deals with very small things, and one of the things that you find out exists in quantum mechanics is what's called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Werner Heisenberg. That's where Brian, what's his last name? On Breaking Bad. Brian, what's his last name? Played one of the roles in Breaking Bad. Jeez, can I think of that? Brian. He played character. Anyway, his nickname in the show in Breaking Bad was Heisenberg because he was a chemist in the show. So he took Werner Heisenberg's last name as his code name. Almost got it here, Brian. I'll get it later, maybe. So anyway, back to quantum physics. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's something called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics, and that uncertainty is that Brian Cranston, that's his last name, Brian Cranston. Okay, got it. I have a photographic memory. I just have to retrieve the file. It can be in my brain, and I just can't access it at the moment, or haven't accessed it yet. The uncertainty principle, Heisenberg uncertainty principle, states that for quantum mechanics, for very small particles, you can't know the particle's position and the particle's momentum at the same time. If you were to know where a particle is, you'd have no idea where it's going, i.e. what its momentum is. And velocity, before I go on further, velocity is different from speed in that velocity is a vector. It has a magnitude and a direction. So velocity implies how fast something's going, but also what direction it's going. That's a vector. A scalar is just a number, and the scalar for how fast a scalar in this case would be just the speed, which is just how fast it's going, without regard to where it's going, what direction it's going. It just would know how fast it's going, just speed. And that's a scalar because it's only got a magnitude, but a vector has a magnitude and a direction, and velocity is a vector because it has a magnitude, just how fast it's going, and then a direction, which direction it's going. So the Heisenberg uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics says, if you were to know the position of a particle, you couldn't also know its momentum. You wouldn't know where it's going or how fast, i.e. momentum. Actually, that how fast and where it's going is actually velocity, but momentum is mass times that. So you'd have to know the mass of the particle and then multiply by the velocity and then include the direction in that calculation, because momentum is a scalar. Momentum is a vector also. It has a magnitude and a direction. If you know a particle's position, you can't know where it's going, what its momentum is. If you know the particle's momentum, which is its mass times how fast it's moving and where it's going, you can't know where it is. You can't know both. You can't know position and momentum simultaneously. If you know one, you can't know the other, and if you know the other, you can't know the one. And I think that's interesting. It applies to the mind, I think, in psychology, creativity, or I mean just the mind, thought. Think about this for a second if you want to. With our thoughts are very the mind is very quantum in its operations, actually, at least quantum-like. If you know your thoughts' position, which is what you're thinking of, you can't simultaneously know what your thought's momentum is, which is what you're thinking, where you're going with that. What's your trend of thought? Where's the thought going? You can only know if you know your thought. You only know your thought. You don't know where your next thought is, or where it's coming from, or what it's going to be, because you know your actual present thought. But on the other hand, if you know your trend of thought, you know where you're going with your thinking, you know what direction you're going, i.e. the momentum of your thinking, you can't also know what you're thinking. You just know what direction you're going. You can't actually at the same time know what you're actually thinking if you know where you're going with it. Try that, it's true. If I'm thinking of the number 5, then I don't know what I'm going to think of next. Ugh, I didn't know I was going to do that. But if I'm thinking of, oh, numbers are cool, I don't know what number I'm thinking of. I don't know what I'm thinking of, 5, 7, or anything. I just know where I'm going with my thinking. But on the other hand, if I know what number I'm thinking of, I can't know what I'm going to think of or do next. Think of next. You know, there's a brain uncertainty principle, or thought uncertainty principle, that actually is a thing. So just wanted to do this, just clear it up. I just want to do a physics video, and it had to, it was going to bother me if I didn't do it, and I'm transparent with you guys, and I needed to do this because it came to me to do it. So anyway, I did a second take of the Van Halen trilogy that I totally blew a month ago or so, because I was so badly out of tune, you couldn't hear it was just awful, so I had to redo that. I did redo the Led Zeppelin one that was also bad because of the tuning problem already, but I hadn't done the Van Halen, and I just did that today. I hope you guys like it. I don't know, tell me I'm wrong, but I'm just really getting into rhythm guitar playing. That's getting more of a thing for me. I'm enjoying it, and I'm getting better at it, you know. I'm sorry, sometimes I go for a harmonic, or I go for a tap, like in the Eddie Van Halen stuff, and I might miss it. But there's always the next try. And I do know what I was trying to do. I just didn't get it that time. But more importantly than all that is, at least I'm keeping the rhythm together. I'm keeping the rhythm guitar okay. I didn't just hit that harmonic and then everything else falls apart. I played good rhythm, and then I missed the harmonic. I'll get it next time. You know, it's like, it's almost like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle with playing. You can't, if you know, if I don't know, if you're focused on one note, you don't know what the next note is. But if you know what kind of notes you're going to play, you don't know what note you're playing or something. I don't know. You got to just try next time, you know, and I know what harmonic I was trying to get and what tap I was trying to get. It's not like I didn't know what I was doing. I just didn't get it on that take. And to be fair, when Eddie Van Halen went in the studio, he did a lot of like what me and the moderator do. They had him record mini takes for a solo. They take like 15 or so takes of just Eddie jamming to the song, and then they would take pieces of it and make a solo in the production stage. Rather than Eddie didn't just play that solo in one take the way it came out on the record in the studio. That was a splice and dice, you know, splice here, put together here. Conglomeration of his individual little parts that they put together in the production stage to make that solo, and then Eddie would go learn that solo, and then that's the solo he would play live. That's a lot. And that itself is not a big excuse for me, but it is tough to play someone as great as Eddie Van Halen's material and just do it right one take and not mess up and not make any mistakes and get everything. You just sometimes you have to take your lumps and try next time. I know what I was trying to do. I know I can do it. I just didn't get it all perfectly in that take. But hey, doesn't mean the take wasn't great. The rhythm guitar playing is important, and I'm putting that first, which is kind of cool. That I don't fall apart. I don't fall apart if I miss a harmonic or a tap, because I'm not just playing lead guitar. I'm playing rhythm guitar. I'm playing songs, and I'm playing songs by Van Halen and Eddie Van Halen and all that. So I'm kind of happy with the take, actually. I think it was all right, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed rocking out. I don't know. I'm just try to stop me. I don't know. It's fun to pick up a guitar and rock out. I like doing it. Anyway, love you guys. Peace, love, and rock and roll.